Welcome to Rising from the Rubble, the podcast where we share real life stories of people who have faced life-changing events like burnout, redundancy, depression, and found a way to rise stronger than before. I'm your host, Maria Newman, and as a coach, I help individuals navigate life's toughest transitions. Whilst listening to this podcast, you'll hear inspiring stories and coaching insights that will empower you to reclaim your confidence, redefine your future, and rise from your own rubble. It's now time to sit back, relax, and enjoy listening to our episode. Hello, Fran, and thank you for joining me today.
Hello, Maria. Thank you for having me today. It's exciting to begin my podcasting journey.
So, what makes your story meaningful to others?
I think it's about struggle and finding that there is hope and light at the end of the tunnel.
And who will benefit most from hearing about your journey?
Many people who go through struggles think they're doing it on their own. Nobody else understands what I'm going through. But actually, there's an awful lot more people who are in the same boat than you think.
And what is the most important takeaway from your experience?
That you can change if you choose. If you want to get out of this quagmire that you've been stuck in, there is hope and there are ways of getting out.
So, Fran, who are you and what is your story?
Who am I? I am a mother, a sister, a grandmother even. And I have got an amazing story because I worked and trained in London as a nurse, as many people did. But then I went on to live and work in Hong Kong. I worked with the refugees. I actually lived in the refugee camp with them. And I also worked in the walled city helping drug addicts come out of drugs with Jackie Pullinger, if anybody's ever heard of her. And so my story really begins with me working in a refugee camp in Hong Kong, and my to-be husband was living and working in a refugee camp in Thailand. And he came to Australia. And then I went to Australia and we met. And guess what? We got married and we have 3 children. And they are beautiful boys. I'm not allowed to call them boys because they're young men these days. But to me, they'll always be my boys. I love them to pieces, even though they have hurt me through the circumstances of life. And that's okay. It's part of the growing up process. It is difficult though, and it's still a struggle. So I'd like to tell you a story, a little bit, about my husband and what his story was like, if that's okay. He had started off in Vietnam as a young man, the oldest of 11 children. His mum was working hard on the streets trying to raise money by cooking and serving food to people on the street vending stall. His father was in the army fighting the communists. He was adamant he did not want to be in a communist country. And so finally, after 6 attempts, he and his brother managed to get on a boat and leave. The journey was not uneventful. They found that they were attacked by Thai pirates not once, not twice, but 3 times. And the women were taken off and dealt with by the men of the Thai pirates. Not nice. Put back on the boat, and their boat was then rammed and had a big hole in it, which my husband caulked by wrapping up the last remaining bits of rice they had and stuffing it in a shirt and caulking up the hole. Because the rice expanded, it actually did manage to save them enough to get to Thailand. They didn't finish, though, that story because they were hit by a typhoon. There was no light. They had nothing but each other, 16 of them crowded into basically a large rowing boat. The waves went up and up and up, and it was pitch black, and they didn't know where they were going to end. But then it came down the other side of the wave, and they thought, are we ever going to get out, as it went down and down and down the other side of the wave. It was very, very scary. Nevertheless, they did come out of it, and they managed to arrive in Thailand, where he was put into a refugee camp and lived there for 3 years. I, in the meantime, was working in Hong Kong in a refugee camp there, which is a very different type of refugee camp, because the people were allowed to go out to work. And so they were very much more independent and very resilient. When it came to New Year, the New Year celebrations, they all got dressed up and they looked like they just walked out of fashion plates. They looked amazing. And I thought, wow, how can you do that, knowing where you've just come out of the refugee camp? The refugee camp consisted of an old RAF base with tin sheds. And the tin sheds were stuffed full of 3 tiers of bunk beds, 10 by 4, jammed together. A curtain was the only thing that separated them from the next one. All their washing facilities and their cooking facilities were outside. So it was really a place crammed full of humanity. I actually lived in this, and I felt like a goldfish swimming in the whole of the environment. 8,000 pairs of eyes watching everything I did. I went around teaching English and loved it. And I recorded it on little cassette tapes, if you remember those things at all. And I could hear my voice from different sections of the camp as I was speaking into these recordings and teaching them how to say, the cat sat on the mat, etc., etc. My husband had complex PTSD, as did probably most of the people in the refugee camp. I didn't know about it then, and we didn't talk about it much then. But when I got to Australia and I met him, I didn't think, oh, he's got complex PTSD. I just thought, here's a man I can help. And that's what we did. But complex PTSD has a way of appearing and raising its ugly head. It turned up in various incidences, but not really majorly, until 2006. When he was riding in his brand new Toyota Prado, which he was extremely proud of. He'd fitted it up so it was just his mobile office. And he was stationary at traffic lights. And this girl came running down the road, 90 kph, and rammed into the back of him. And it became a 5-car pile-up because it pushed him into the next car and the next car and the next car. But what he heard was a bomb going off. And it triggered all the memories of the things that he'd shoved down and down and down. And it also imploded in his mind. He wasn't able to sleep. He had these video loops going on and on and on in his head. And he said, I can't turn them off. I don't know how to find the stop button. I didn't know how to help him either. We tried everything. We tried drugs. We tried different forms of therapy, sand tray therapy, water therapy. The water therapy was the only one that really worked. Herbal medicines, herbal teas, everything. And he rejected it all because his body resisted it all. Said, I don't need help, I can do this, because he'd been a fighter all his life and he didn't know how to stop. In the end, it got so bad and it wasn't safe to stay with him anymore that myself and my boys left for another house to live in a safer place and become time to lick our wounds and realise that actually we've got a lot of healing to do, which it has happened over the years. And I guess is still happening because it takes time to heal.
So tell me, Fran, what was it like for you being a mother, being a woman, living in that environment of not knowing how your husband was going to be reacting, behaving, and at the same time being sympathetic to what he'd gone through?
It was a quandary, because being out in Australia away from my family, I really didn't have an awful lot of support. I had some friends, but they had no idea what we were really going through because we didn't present that to them at all. We presented that, no, we're a family, we're doing well, and blah, blah, blah. And so it was really a struggle. I did have some counselling finally. And one of the counsellors turned around to me as we actually had couple counselling at one point. And she said, why are you still with him? And then when he went for some other counselling and he asked me to go with him, the lady who was giving him the Santre therapy also said in front of him, why haven't you left yet? I thought, you can't do that as a counsellor. That's so wrong. But he got angry. And that sort of reflected back on me because it was my fault. Everything was my fault, always my fault. And, even the fact that the boys didn't respect him anymore. I said, but you have to earn respect. So it was a constant struggle, a constant arguing about what was right and what was wrong and what fault I had done. And he said, well, it's all your fault. And I said, I can't read your mind. I don't know what you're thinking. And walking on eggshells. What do I say next? Or do I not say in case I trigger something else? And the problem is, I didn't know what was triggering him, even though he thought I did. He thought I was doing stuff on purpose. And I said, but I don't know. I don't get it because I don't know what it is that you're getting triggered by. So it was a constant anxiety level, a pitch that was really tearing at my heartstrings because I wanted to help him. I wanted it to be right so much. But he didn't want to play the game either. So it was really, really tough. I had to report him one time to the police. And the policewoman came to the door and there was only myself and my husband in the house. We were on a 14-acre plot of land. So kind of no next door neighbours. And she served him with the papers and then left. I thought, well, great. Thanks so much. That's a highly likely next sort of incident about to happen. Fortunately, it didn't. And we just carried on for a bit longer until one day I thought, no, I can't do this anymore. This constant argy-barging about who's right, who's wrong. It was going round and round and round and getting nowhere fast. And I just thought, this is draining my spirit so much. My psyche is not stable anymore because I just can't cope with this constant uncertainty of what's going to happen next. So eventually we did move out onto the other house on the property, the pool shed, and we camped there for the next 18 months until things got sorted out and I could actually get him to pay me my half of the house. So it was what we call an agreement, not a divorce. So yes, and then I left and then he eventually did file for a divorce and that was his choice, not mine. I left the gate open in case he was going to change, but he didn't. So now I am back in the UK. I am doing fine. I have had a long journey and thanks to Toastmasters giving me the confidence to speak up and be heard and valued for who I was, my love of my dad and my dad's love for me, all those things compounded to bring healing and wholeness.
So you find yourself back in the UK. How old are your boys at this point?
My boys were in their 20s when I first came back.
And so how did you find it and how did they find it? Because obviously to them, it's not their home country. How did you all find it having to live together in this new land? What did life look like?
We didn't all come back together, no.
Okay.
I came back to look after my dad, who was 91, and I lived with him for 5 years. We had an amazing time. The boys, Daniel, the oldest one, was back in England already, and he was working and living in London at the time. My middle son has never left Australia, apart from a couple of visits to the UK. He's got a fabulous girlfriend and they're doing really well. They've been together for 10 years. And I just love the fact that his girlfriend says he's her favourite human on the planet. So I think they're pretty okay. My eldest one is married and has got a little child and another number 2 on the way, which is very exciting. And my youngest went to Holland, followed his girlfriend there. He's not with her anymore, but he's still finding his feet. He's the youngest and he's probably the one that's been most damaged but not really understanding how to get out of things. So he's still working things through, but he's on the mend. And having broken up with his girlfriend, that didn't help. So yeah, another tragedy to unfold and learn from. But it has not been easy. And they've all had their own issues. I think all of them had to have had counselling of some sort or another, but not with me, obviously. It's too close. And much as I'd love to help them, I can't step in. So we'll see what they do and as they develop. But I do think it's taken them till about 34 to mature and to come out of this situation. So the youngest one's not quite there yet, so he's almost there. It's good.
So tell us in your own words, how have you risen from your rubble that you found yourself in?
When I came back to look after my dad, I was honestly a broken woman. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know how to make or fix things for myself. So I looked around to see what I could do, and I thought maybe I'd become a public speaker and talk about what I've gone through. But I didn't have the confidence or the words and the knowledge to really share at that moment in time. So my journey has been from then. I started to go and look and learn about public speaking. I did some various courses with various people, and then somebody suggested I join Toastmasters, and that has really helped a huge amount. The environment has been so supportive. They've listened, heard and valued what I've said. I've done various roles in the committee meetings, and it's been a whole big learning curve. And honestly, I can say it has really helped me an enormous amount. It's helped me to know who I am and to be confident to speak up and not blush and be a shrinking violet anymore.
And have you reached a point then where you think that you've been able to put what you've been through to bed, or do you think you're still going through it?
I think everybody who's gone through a tough situation will find that there are moments when they feel like I'm acing it, I'm okay, I'm on the top of the mountain, it's brilliant. And then there's something, a sound, a taste, a place, a song even, that will trigger your memories and you go, oh my goodness. And it's a bit like grief. It never really leaves you. And the waves that come are often just calming down. And suddenly there's a rogue wave that comes in and washes over you. And you go, okay, that came out of the blue. You take a deep breath. So I've left that now. That's over. I'm safe now. I can move on. And you just move on from there. But it is learning how to ground yourself and find that safe spot where it's okay, I've got this and I'm okay.
So if you were to go back to the point of where you're in Australia, you're living the life that you've come accustomed to, what advice would you give yourself?
I think my boys would say, and I know that's not the question you asked, but my boys would say, you should have left earlier, Mum. But I will say this to everybody who's thinking about leaving. Leaving isn't easy. It is something that you have to work through and plan carefully. And I think I didn't have enough advice or support then either. So get some advice, get support, and plan your actions for yourself and for your children. Your children need a good life, as do you. And it's a bit like being in an aeroplane with an oxygen mask. It drops down, you've got to put it on yourself first before you can fix anybody else. So that's my advice, is to grab the oxygen mask, put it on firmly, and then look around, see what you can do for other people. But fix yourself first.
Beautiful words, Fran, beautiful words. So what have you learned about yourself by going through the experiences that you've had?
I think that you're making choices. In TRTP, the modality that I use for trauma counselling, we learn about making a choice. I choose to know that my life matters. It matters to me and to my family. So it's very important that you realise that you have to put yourself first. Now, this might be selfish. You might think, oh, that's terrible. But actually, if you're not working properly at full function level, you can't help other people. So it's very necessary that you work on yourself so that you're then ready with a brand new toolkit that you can say, okay, I've fixed myself to a certain extent now. Obviously, there's still going to be stuff that down the track. It's a learning curve, but the steepest part has been done. It's an ongoing learning lesson because life is a lifetime learning. And so therefore, if you're going to get yourself together, you're then going to be able to help other people. So having looked at what I can do for myself, I learned about TRTP and the fact that I can help other people because of what I've been through. I know what it's like. I've walked the walk, I've talked the talk, I've walked on those eggshells. I've been put into a silent treatment, of which there are various terminologies, and in Australia we call it the what do we call it? Because here you call it something else, and I forget now what either of them are called. But it's when you're put into Coventry, basically, and it's really debilitating. Because you might as well be a fly on the wall for all the person who's put you into Coventry is treating you, and it's really horrible. It's the only word I can describe it, because you want to talk, you want to communicate, and everything's shut down, and it is really hard to work through that. So for a whole month we did that, or rather I was put into Coventry, and when I turned around and said, do you realise it's a whole month now since you last spoke to me? And he said, no, it's not been that long. So I actually got a response, which is great. But he didn't realise how long it was. I counted every second. And it is really hard if people put people into this form of gaslighting. That's what you call it here in England. And it's stonewalling is what we call it in Australia. There you go, it's come back to me. And it is horrible. It is like being stoned. And it's just, being stoned by stones. It's horrible. It's painful, it hurts, and you just cringe because you want those communication barriers to be broken down and to be able to flow naturally once again. And it is a learning curve, and it is a matter of taking time and knowing that you are worth working on. I choose to know that I deserve a better life, and other people can choose that too. And I can.
That's so true, so true. So as we come towards the end of our time together, can you tell those that are listening and watching the 3 things that you would like them to take away from this conversation?
Yes, 1, don't leave it too late. If you're in a difficult situation, please look carefully, get some support. That's number 2, get some support and talk about it. Don't think that you're left there all on your own, because you're not. And then plan, take action, and find the best solution for you and or for your children, because that is important. But number 1 is take time out for you.
And those listening and watching will be thinking, Fran, she's amazing. I need to know more about her. Make it easy for them. How can people connect with you?
Please look at my website, which I hope that will be put on to the end of this call, and give me a message, ping me a message and say hello, and I can definitely answer your questions and help. We can have an introductory call, a free 30-minute session where we can just talk about it, and if you think we're a good fit, then we can go ahead and have a discussion about how TRTP can help you, because TRTP is an amazing modality. I've learned it in Australia. I'm the only one of 2 practitioners here in the UK, but we're finding that it works. So if you want to know more, please come and find me and ask questions.
Thank you, Fran, for being so open and honest with your journey, your story.
You're very welcome. Thank you for letting me talk about it.
And thank you everybody for listening and watching. Thank you for listening to Rising from the Rubble. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Also, remember to download your free life assessment. Just click the link in the description to get started. Take care, and remember, every setback is an opportunity for growth. I'll see you next time.